right, y'all. We are back again with another great episode of Guided Truth with our host, Guyland. How you doing today, Guyland?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, you ain't gonna say it. You don't mess it up. Go ahead. How you doing, Guyland?
I'm good. I'm always good.
No, last week you was favored and highly blessed. And then you was like, I ain't saying it this week.
Well, I'm always favored and I'm always blessed.
Well, I'm always blessed and I'm always highly favored. You know what I'm saying? So we doing good. All right, man. So this week on this show, we're going to get into community building. And I think that's a really good one to talk about today. And I'm really interested to see how you pull that in biblically, right?
Yeah.
So let me just give a recap, right?
Yeah.
Wednesday is city council here in the city of Bremerton. And one of the big topics was REACT. And that is the race equity committee that was formed after the death of George Floyd to address those issues within city council. The way that it was made was apparently illegal. So you know how things can be, right? If them folk don't like how something is made, they're gonna find the legal way to dismantle it, right?
Okay.
And so then they don't have to say, well, we don't like it because we don't want you to talk about race relations and what those issues are. We'll say, hey, it's illegal because this goes against the policy of the procedure. So that's how they were able to dismantle it.
Okay.
And then over the course of about 2 years, the mayor and city council and people in the community said, hey, all right, so what are we going to replace this with? What is it going to look like? They did bring in a consultant team to talk to the community and others, and they had their recommendations. And the recommendations were to create a director position at city council where that person would operate both internally and externally to city council. And so they would go out and work with folks in the community and bring that information back into the city. And then inside the city, they would go to managers' meetings and whatnot and just make recommendations and be that voice and try to guide, the city council and its employees in a way that has some racial equity.
So is there any prerequisites for that position?
There is a job description that was put out in the packet, right? And this is one of the big ones that I hope that we get into, is there is such apathy, especially in the Black community, when it comes around politics, right? When George Floyd died, then of course everyone comes out, they're up at arms, and they're ready to march and yell, and they want all this change. Then when it's time to do the sustained work, all of a sudden everyone falls off and backs off. I sent out information to more than 40 people. Hey, you need to make your voice heard. And only 4 letters came into city council saying that, we wanted it to be a director position and not a manager position. Unfortunately, we lost that vote 4-2. The president and Jane Rebelowski in District 4 both voted no. They wanted it to be the higher level director, and the other 5 council folks, one was absent, so the other 4 voted yes to keep it as a director. Or as a manager position. So that's unfortunate. They had their reasons for it. But again, if more voices had come in and talked about why they wanted it to be a director position, that may have had more power to sway them toward making it a director position.
So are we leaving it up to those people in those positions to improve the community?
Unfortunately, the big answer to that is yes. And I was just telling Andre that the other day, right? Power is taken, it's not given. And so as long as we're going and we're saying, hey, city council, hey, mayor, hey, governor, hey, president, can you do this for us? Then we have to be beholden to what they're willing to give to us, right? Now, if we run and we are in those seats, then we can say this is what we want and then change the policies and the laws to reflect our needs and our interests. So absolutely.
So are the leaders that are presently there, are they following any type of Bible principle?
I would say no. And one is nonpartisan, and I think it's also non-religious.
Okay, so that's where the issue is going to lie. So whoever we do try to get in those positions, need to be able to follow those principles in order to be the most effective. If not, you're going to have, or you're going to continue to see what we might all think are called chaos. And it's not going to, I don't foresee any improvement unless we can find a way to vote people in who have those principles.
So let me get your thesis statement right. What you're saying is that unless people with a strong Christian base are elected into these positions, then we are going to continue to see what we see here in our country, the things that either we like, we don't like, things that could be even better than where they are, or we're going to get more of the same.
We're going to get more of the same if we don't find people who have those values.
That sounds like you might get a lot of pushback on that, to elect a Christian when you've got Muslims, you have atheists, agnostics.
I know.
Wiccan,
and
many on our board, I think, resonate with some of those other things I named.
Okay, so what have we seen? Like, so you've been here for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen, when was the last time that you seen any, let's say, improvement or more effective leadership?
I got here in 1997, and so
so you got a lot of history.
Yeah, well, I've been here since I was 24, right?
Okay, so yeah.
But way back then, I didn't know anything about city government. Yeah. I didn't care anything about city government.
Yeah.
And in truth, I didn't start really having any interest until about 2 or 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about from 24 to 49, it is what it is, right? I was just as apathetic and obtuse and ignorant as many other people. And I don't mean ignorant in the bad way. I mean ignorant as in not knowing, right?
Yeah.
The importance of how powerful city government is. I don't have time for that. I've got other things I got to do. I got to take care of my family. I got to take care of myself.
Right.
I want to go enjoy myself. I ain't got time to go to city council and do whatever, right?
Yeah.
But in the last 3 years that I've seen, and from the time that I've been here in 2024, I'll tell you, when I got here, didn't have a car, walked around everywhere, right? Yeah. There used to be weekend bus transportation, and those things don't exist now, right? It seems to be quite a bit more dangerous than it was before. Homelessness didn't look anything like it did. Housing prices, just all of these things. We've got buildings that are sitting empty. So from that standpoint, I've seen a steady decline, but that's not just here in the city of Bremerton. This is a nationwide phenomenon.
Exactly. So I think if we're going to have any hope of improvement, I think we're going to have to start at the home level. Because I think if we can, if everybody can improve their home and start living those principles in the home first, then they can move up to the neighborhoods. And then if you have a neighborhood that's living those principles, then it can grow to the community. And then from there, it can expand. But it has to be, it all comes down to choice again.
Well, that is choice. But it also is domestication, right? If I'm not domesticated into a Christian home with Christian values, and I mean not Christian values in the sense of, because there's a lot of Christians that go to church every Sunday, but there's no Christianity in the home.
So again, you have to really be living those principles, not just say, "Oh, I'm a Christian," and then just on Sunday. You have to really live it to get those blessings, which would mean.
So I would submit there are probably a very small percentage of families and individuals that are living those principles.
Right. And so that's the problem.
So how do we start then if most families don't have that at all?
Well, I mean, again, so we go back to choosing to read. We had to start somewhere. So you got to take the time to say, okay, I can't be so dependent on my leadership. If they're not willing to do their job as I think they should be doing it, then I have to do the best I can do in my own home, because I can control my four walls.
And I feel what you're saying there, but what about the person like me coming here at 24, 30 years old that has no idea what city government is or what its purpose or function is? So I could not like how things are going around in my city,
Yeah.
but I have no idea on how
to
go
change
about,
it. Yeah.
advocating or
Yeah.
trying to fix that.
I'm not saying we shouldn't care. I'm just saying I wouldn't put too much into making them change, because I'm not expecting people in power to change, because they chose that position for whatever reason. I don't know. It can be for power, money, whatever.
Ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? So, but I can't control how my home is ran. And if I can live those principles and show my family those principles, then my kids can show their kids, and then their kids can hopefully show their kids. So you have to, if you can do it slowly, because it's time consuming, but you got to do it at a low level and let the next generation pick up the torch.
So I hear what you're saying, but in all seriousness, if we do it that way, and I think that's part of the problem, is that most families have been doing it that way. Right? I'm just going to focus on my core, and then I'm going to go from there. And you're like, well, it's going to be what it's going to be. I can't change that. But I submit to you, Toby, that if that's going to be the case, then you would still be getting whipped, because it took many of us to fight to make those changes.
Okay.
So you got to have some fighters in order to push it forward. You know what I'm saying? I can call you Mr. Toby if you want.
All right, can you put up the Bible verse?
He's going to say, my name is Kunta.
So we have Bible verses that could actually show you how you should be moving. And even actually those Bible verses will be beneficial to the leadership if they would be open-minded enough and selfless enough, because you in that position, you're supposed to be a server. You're supposed to be of service to the people.
Right.
I don't think that most of them are.
Okay. Are you saying that?
Because most of the time, if your ego's getting in the way, you have more pride. You're being more selfish than a servant to the people.
I think if you ask them individually, they would say that they are being servants, right? And they probably just don't agree with the Christian principle.
But their fruits are telling me they're not servants. So they can say all they want, but if I'm not going to believe what they tell me, I'm going to believe what I see. So if I look out in the community and I see all the crime, the drugs, the homelessness, that means that's their fruit.
I think what they would say is that's not their job. Things like making sure that the sidewalks get paved and roundabouts and camera lights. Just as something that is current that people in the city are talking about now.
Yeah,
that's what they would say is their
fruit,
do, right?
Is their fruit. But people are unsafe.
Bike lanes, but
from these homeless people and these people on drugs, people are unsafe. We don't have the facilities and the services that's necessary to keep the community safe.
And I would tell you, they would say that, but that's not their job. That's not their function.
Job. Okay, so what's their job description?
Well, we'd have to pull that up. But they would say that's not their job description. That's not their function, right? And I actually hate that answer.
So let's take me when I was in the military.
Yeah.
If I'm in the military and I don't tell you specifically what I was trained to do, as in my job, we have multiple jobs in the military. But if I'm just telling you I'm in the Navy, you're going to think, okay, well, his job is to defend the country.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, yes, that's part of a whole team. That's my job. But I have more specific jobs. So every sailor is a fireman first, because you have to protect the ship. We're cleaners next, because you have to keep the ship clean. And then I was a IT as my permanent job title. But everybody in there is that their job is to defend the country. So you can't just say, well, that's not my job.
I like that.
If you're in that role as a servant, then your job is to serve the people. So you can't just say that's not my job. You got to still be responsible, or if that's not your job, hold the next person above you, or hold your counterpart accountable. Because we have to, in the military, we got to hold each other accountable to get the mission done. Because if we fail and the country gets attacked, we still gonna take the blame.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're not working together, they need to figure out, oh, well, this is not working. Or if they have somebody in there who's not working together, a part of the team, or if they have somebody that's bullying the rest of the team, then that needs to be made known so we can we can move in the proper direction.
You know, and I like your thought process in that too. And a lot of times what you'll see when their job descriptions are changing now, but the way they used to be, it would have all the higher level titles and it would say and other duties as assigned, right? And that's what you're talking about, right? I'm a firefighter first, I clean second, I do all these other things, you know, before I'm looking at what my rate is, right? And what I'm doing in there as my actual daily job. And if we do have that attitude of that's not my job, then we're gonna kind of be left with what we have, you know?
Exactly.
So which is why I was saying that we do have to take action on things that we have to focus on the home. I think, you know, charity starts at home. But then we also have to make sure that we have one eye up and advocating and trying to push and steer things forward.
Having one eye up. But also in the Bible, there was a time when the way of thinking was so bad, God had to let that generation die off because they didn't want to act right. They had the slave mentality. And even though he took them out of slavery, they still didn't want to trust him and be free. They wanted to actually go back to Egypt, back into slavery. So he had to let, actually, I didn't know.
That's where we're at now.
I didn't know, but only 2 of the older people got into the promised land. I didn't know that.
Really?
Only 2. And it was
only 2.
Only 2.
Wow.
So,
and they were probably old or babies.
Well, they were older, but everybody else was 20 and under. So
because they had to let the generation die.
They had to let that die off. So they spent 40 years wandering around.
Man,
when the trip probably they could have got there in a week.
Well, I want to hear your Bible verses, but we're definitely going to have to talk about culture. That statement there, I would say in a lot of ways, we are going back into bondage, and not physically, but mentally.
Okay, so the first one is we can go to 1 Peter.
No, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm not even going to try.
It says, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Do not be slothful in zeal, be fervent in spirit, and serve the Lord.
So is that a sin if I don't use the talent that God gave me?
Everybody got multiple talents, and I'm sure you're using the talent God gave you.
I don't think I'm using it, all of it.
You are, and you are.
But I could always be doing better. I didn't give my 100% best effort today.
So nobody's judging, but again,
I judge myself.
The whole point is
that's what allows me to judge others. I'm very judgmental.
Use the gift God gave you and apply the biblical law. So just love each other is a big part. But
what does that mean?
So you treat everybody as you want to be treated.
Oh, but you know what? So you missed it last week. The young brother, he preached his sermon.
Yeah.
Oh, it was fire. And his sermon was about love. And he said something, everyone else in the room actually listened to the sermon. If you guys remember, what was the phrase he said? Love is truthful, but it's kind. So you don't have to give the hard truth and hurt someone's feelings. You can give it in a way where it's the truth.
So it's a lot of times
it was a powerful message.
It's the delivery a lot of times.
You like the harsh delivery. You like to tell like a TI is.
I give a lot of gloom and doom. That's because in my mind everything is
urgent.
It's urgent.
Dire.
And so I'm like, hurry up, get all the information out because I just don't know. We don't know how much time is left.
And folks don't want to hear that now. They want prosperity preaching. They don't want the doom and gloom. That's what they grew up with. That's what their parents and their grandparents grew up with.
Well, and
they want so, you can be rich. And they deal with God like he's a genie.
You know what? The grandparents probably had more saints than we do now. Meaning just faithful believers, faithful servants, and they didn't sing. They probably had a few songs that they sing every Sunday to bring the Holy Spirit into church. We need to go back to that, not necessarily back to that way, but we need to have the mindset. So the older people, their way of thinking is actually good. So for me, I do believe we should be having the generational. So some cultures, they do that.
Yeah.
They'll have 2 or 3 families, or they'll have the parents, the grandparents, and the kids all in one home. And actually that's good. If you don't have a lot of money, that is good. Because then both parents can go out and work, and the grandparents are taking care of the kids, and they're getting they're learning to think in a better, healthier way.
You know, I agree to a level, but I think that there are some elders that, you know, they fought the civil rights era, they're done with it, and now it's like, you know what? I don't want to fight no more. We just need to get it.
And that's good, because
that's problematic.
No, they're done with fighting. It's not their turn to fight anymore.
Right, but they're the ones that have the power, and they're still steering us to we've come so far. Let's just not fight. Things are good. And it's like, it's good for you.
So
the rest of us out here suffering.
So the younger people need to be fighting. That's why they're young and strong. But they need the wisdom of the elders. So that way, because otherwise, if they don't get the wisdom from the elders, that's how history keeps repeating itself, because the youth haven't talked to the elders to see, oh, well, what happened back in your time? So I know when it comes up again, and it will, that they know, oh, okay, that happened already. I'm ready for it. I can maneuver and keep it pushing.
Gotcha. So,
but
I mean, we still have to have the power of discernment of what we're looking for.
Our society has made sure that certain cultures don't have that generational family, or that wisdom that is needed, especially in our culture.
You know what's interesting is,
at least not here. Maybe down south is more. I'm not sure.
I don't know if it exists anywhere now. I agree with you, but I think it's right.
Yeah,
I think there is systemic in dismantling.
The
Black family.
Yes.
But then also we're also doing it on our own.
I do. I can see that.
Like we are willfully making these choices.
Well, because we've had help.
No, we've had
help. Right. But yes, like at this point, yes, at this point we are doing a lot of damage to ourselves, and the powers that be just kind of sit back and watch.
Right. They don't have to do anything now. We can just do it ourselves. I mean, not to say that they're still not meddling.
Oh yeah,
but
not as much as
we inflict a lot of our own wounds.
And that is true. So the question is, when will we get tired of licking wounds and ready to fight? This up and coming generation, let's say 18 to 21, they don't feel the need to fight because they don't see there's anything to fight for yet.
Right. But why would you?
If they would listen to their parents and their grandparents, they would see, or at least they would have an idea that things haven't really changed. Slightly, but they should always understand that freedom has never been free. And when you start looking at the Bible, you will see we're not free.
Give us another Bible verse. Why is that funny?
Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 10. It says, "Now I plead with you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment." So here, let's say in Bremerton, there's a lot of division.
Yeah.
And so until we can come together, we're gonna have issues. We're gonna have discord. And our city it will not be blessed because we can't do the simplest of the Bible principles.
What's the simplest?
We can't even just treat each other with respect, let alone let's get on the same accord and let's move forward together, regardless of the skin color. So there's a lot of issues that we're going to continue to have until we can have somebody stand up and show an example.
Well, define respect, because I can come up to you and say, good day, Mr. Charles, and then institute laws and policies that are harmful to you.
And I'm
respecting you.
No, that's not respect.
That's why I want you to go deeper on that.
Okay, so again, so we go back to actions speak louder than words. Mm-hmm. So what you tell me, I'm not hearing it. It's going in one ear and out the other. I'm looking to see what have you done in your term in office, or what are you going to do if you get elected. So I'm looking at the fruit. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at what have you done, and or what do you plan to do. So that's going to show me the truth of what you're doing, or it's going to hide. It's not going to allow you to hide behind your words, or just hey, how you doing, Mr. Charles? So I got that a lot in times past, mm-hmm. and I learned real quick that just because somebody tell you hi and show you respect to your face, that don't mean they respect you when your back is turned.
Right.
So,
ooh, boy. They smile in your face.
The military will show you quickly, because you get to see later on, especially as you move up in rank, you start to see how people really think about you.
So how do you move then if you know that there are a lot of people that don't respect you, but then your job is to be respectful? How do you do that?
Well, if your job is to be so in the military, you got to respect those low on the totem pole, have to have respect for those up the chain of command. But also, that's what drove me to start reading the Bible. Because mm-hmm. I was, like you said, I was trying to find a way of how to deal with having to respect people above me and not getting respect in return.
Right.
So as I started reading the Bible more, I started finding peace and not worrying so much about, you know what, you don't have to respect my uniform, and really, you don't have to respect me if you're not affecting my household. Do what you feel you need to do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. People do affect the city council, affects your household.
So that means you have to do if you start with the Bible principles, you will be shown a way around it. And you have to choose to you can either choose to accept it, or it's another way. And at least it was successful for me. That's why I can say, hey, this is what I feel should happen, or mm-hmm. this is what I feel people should try to move towards this. Because the fruits allowed me to one, be promoted when there were people around who didn't want to see me promoted. Mm. Actually, people wanted to see me get kicked out. It allowed me to retire when people didn't want me to retire.
So it sounds like a big piece of that is you being accountable for the job that you were enlisted to do, right? You've got
exactly.
your job,
yeah.
And regardless of how these people are interacting with you,
yeah.
you got a job that you signed on for,
yeah.
and you're going to try to do it to the best
yeah.
of your ability.
And even when they found out I was reading the Bible, mm-hmm. They tried to use that against me,
mm-hmm.
but even that didn't work out. So that's what really fortified. I said, oh, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing now, so I'm good. I started really trying to, I just kept reading and taking notes, and I gave it all to God at that point to say, you know what, however this play out is going to play out.
What does that mean when people say that, giving it all to God?
You deal with what you can deal with, and you let God take care of the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And don't worry about it. Because once you say, God, hey, I've done all I can do. I'm leaving it in your hands. You have to have faith that he gonna take care of it.
Right, but I like to say, faith without work is dead. You don't say, hey, Jesus, take the wheel, and then Jesus gonna steer it like it's a Tesla.
So
right? There's a fine line between saying, giving it to God and doing your part.
So when he's saying your works,
mm-hmm.
he means following the principles.
Mm.
So following the principles and having faith. That's it.
Now, how many principles are there?
Ooh.
Oh, man.
All right, you can just say, so the 10 Commandments will...
that's a good place to start?
So that covers it. So, because Old Testament is, it's a good thing we don't follow the Old Testament.
Got you.
God blessed us and said, all right, look, we know you can't handle the 616, so look, I'm going to give you 10. In reality, one will take care of all 10.
All the rest.
And that's just loving each other as you would love yourself.
Mm. Well, as we wrap, I think, one of the issues, one of the big issues that we have an issue with community, I love this quote, and it looks like this came from Michael Hoff.
Okay.
Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And so if you think about the World War II generation, it was really hard for them, right? And it made it easier. The boomers, they had it hard, right?
Yeah, they did.
And the Gen Xers were like, man, y'all were hard on us. Well, we're going to make it easier for our kids. Yeah. So we made it easier for the millennials. The millennials like, man, y'all had it hard. I'm going to make it even easier for the next generation. And that's where we're finding ourselves now. And there's the fourth turning, which is a concept about, society going through these different seasons. And the fourth is kind of what we're seeing now, right? The fall of empires and things like that, and then coming back around and starting over again. And that's where it seems like we're at right now.
Yeah. So we need to tread very carefully. And
so just to wrap, to give folks, something to go off on for this week, start at home. Charity starts at home.
Yep.
Get your home in order. Get yourself in order. Right. And then if you're in a household, then get your home in order. And then start to think outside of that.
Exactly. Because then you'll start seeing like-minded people in your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And then y'all can have that discussion and grow. Once the neighborhood is on one accord, then you have your community. And then you can actually go out and make effective change. Once the community is thinking how it's supposed to be thinking, you don't need leaders. Not necessarily. I mean, it's good to have them, but you will be able to put in who you want to put in at that point.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, do your research, definitely get into books as much as you can, but you still need the power of discernment there also. Because even in books and statistics, numbers can say what you want them to say. And so you have to have the power of discernment, find out what is an opinion versus a fact, and see what they're actually trying to say. So that sounds like a good place to end today. Man, we will be back next week with another fantastic show. You already know what to do. What do they got to do?
Hit the like button and subscribe.
And what else? There's more. Man, they got to share it. They got to go tell it on the mountain. You said sing the same song. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere.
You started to tell our age now.
You said we needed to go back.
That
Jesus Christ was born. Everybody.